Welcome once again to Musings by Danon. If you're new here, welcome. Over on my Patreon, I have a tier where you can pay me to watch an anime or read a manga, then do a video on it with my thoughts. Longtime Patreon supporter Waffles asked me to watch Kotoura-san, but only the first episode. What he really wanted was a video on first episodes of anime. Well, I finally had the time to work on that video, so here you go, Waffles. Apologies for the wait. Also, and I know it's annoying to keep hearing this, but statistically, if I don't ask you to like and subscribe, the video gets fewer subscribers. Oh, one more quick announcement before we get started. I'm streaming on Gaming with Danon as well as Twitch. Sometimes I'm building commander decks, other times I'm playing Final Fantasy XIV, but you're always welcome to pop in and talk about manga. Honestly, about half my streams are talking about manga, anime, or commander. The purpose of a first episode is to get you into the series. Maybe you've read the description, maybe your friend recommended the series to you, or maybe a YouTuber you follow recommended it. Regardless, you watch the first episode to see if you like the series. The problem is, first episodes aren't always indicative of the rest of the series. Looking at you, Death Note. So, what makes a great first episode? In my opinion, you need two things. First of all, you need to catch your viewers' attention. They have to be entertained. Obviously, not every genre is for everyone, but each genre has certain expectations, and you need to establish that those expectations will be fulfilled as the series goes on. We don't need to know how to fire a spirit gun or go Bankai or go Super Saiyan in the first episode. But by God, we need main boy and main girl to meet in the first episode, otherwise what's the point? Second of all, you need to honestly establish the tone for your series. Is this a romantic comedy or something more serious? Is this a fun shonen action romp, or are we going to traumatize our viewers by having a titan eat the main character's mother? And is the writing straightforward, or does it rely on thoughtful interpretation? Are the characters all just tropey archetypes, or are they fleshed out and more human? Did this need to be an isekai, or could it have been a fantasy? Is the power system interesting, or is it just spreadsheets with fancy graphics? Now, you can have tonal shifts in the first episode. In fact, one of the series we're going to talk about has a massive tonal shift at the end of the first episode that left anime fans shocked the first time it aired. But the overall tone of that series stayed between those two shifts. You know what? We'll just talk about that anime first so you can see what I'm talking about. Obviously, I'm not going to post a spoiler warning about this series. Not only is it 20 years old, we're only talking about the first episode, which starts out with a bit of world building. Japan was taken over by the Holy Britannian Empire and is now known as Area 11. The Japanese can no longer call themselves Japanese, they are simply known as 11s. Our story begins with a Britannian youth skipping school to gamble. Of course, he's not playing with cards, nothing so blasé as that. Rather, he's betting on the game of kings, chess. On his way home after trouncing his opponent and earning a considerable sum, our main character, Lelouch, is nearly run off the road by an out-of-control truck. He witnesses the truck crash and, while trying to help the people in the truck, winds up inside as the truck escapes underground. As it turns out, this truck is being driven by terrorists who believe they have stolen a giant canister of poisonous gas from a local military base. The driver was severely wounded and eventually succumbs to those wounds. When the truck finally stops, Lelouch is attacked by a soldier of the Empire, who assumes Lelouch is one of the terrorists. Lelouch yells at the soldier, who stops, recognizing Lelouch. As it turns out, it's none other than Suzaku, his childhood friend, and the son of the former Prime Minister of Japan. Suddenly, the canister containing poisonous gas opens. Only it's not poison gas, it's a girl. Suzaku and Lelouch are confused, but before they can figure out what's going on, a squadron of the Royal Guards shows up and shoots Suzaku for learning the truth. The truck driver, still alive apparently, wakes up enough to set off the explosives that the truck was rigged with, which creates enough of a distraction for Lelouch and the girl to escape. Their escape doesn't last long, though. The lead guard aims his gun at Lelouch when suddenly the girl, catatonic and nonverbal up to this point, leaps in front of him and takes the bullet for him, killing her instantly. The guards shrug and monologue about how it couldn't be helped and goes to shoot Lelouch again when the dead girl reaches her hand up to grasp Lelouch's. Suddenly, Lelouch is in another world. A world that exists outside time and is only in his mind, and the mind of the mysterious girl. She offers him a chance at life, a chance to survive. She'll grant him power, but in exchange, he must make her wish come true. But if he chooses to walk the path of the king, he'll have a life of solitude. Lelouch accepts the terms of the contract, reveals his true name, as well as his status as an imperial prince, and commands the royal guards to die. As one, they point their guns at their heads and fire. Lelouch is shocked. With just a few words, he ended the lives of over a dozen people. Now, this isn't an unusual opening. Shonen series are rife with characters suddenly getting powers and kicking butt. Bleach starts out with Ichigo getting Rukia's power so that he can save his little sisters from a hollow. My Hero Academia starts out with Deku inheriting All Might's power. Most isekai series start out with the main character gaining some cheat ability. Kagome learns how to command Inuyasha right off the bat. Gotta keep demons in line after all. But what was different and unique about Code Geass was Lelouch's reaction. That smile. That devilish, evil grin on Lelouch's face. He just killed a bunch of people, and his reaction is to smile about it. This clenched it for me, that this show was something special. And sure, not every episode lived up to the hype of the first episode, but the climax did. In my opinion, Code Geass is sandwiched between two of the best anime episodes of all time. This is a big part of why it's my favorite anime. Of course, I'm talking about the original run, not the extras that they've made in the intervening years. The first episode perfectly encapsulates what you're in for. A dark mecha series where no one is safe, seasoned with a little bit of humor to break up the darkness. Oh My Goddess is the story of a boy down on his luck. He's a good boy who always tries to help others, but of course that means he gets taken advantage of a lot. Let this be a lesson to all of you people pleasers. Saying no is not being mean. Keiichi Morisato is a student at the Komi Institute of Technology. He joined the auto club and lives in the dorm because it was cheaper. But despite living with a bunch of people, he still feels lonely. Also, for some reason, the dorm has a strict rule banning women from entering the building. One typical day, Keiichi sleeps in and almost misses class. His bike won't start, so he has to run to school. He sees the girl he asked out on a date once, but she turned him down in a brutal manner, so he took some psychic damage from being reminded of that incident. Keiichi's mind drifts off when he's in class, so he gets yelled at. His clubmates drag him out of class to help them raise money. They fix someone's scooter, but that person runs off without paying, so Keiichi is sent to track him down and get the money. The chase ends in disaster, of course. Finally, that night, Keiichi is told that he has to stay home in order to keep an eye on the dorm. The rest of the auto club is going to a party, and his bike is still broken, and they just can't leave their beloved dorm alone. Also, get all these chores finished before we get back. You see, Keiichi was born under a star of misfortune. He has had bad luck his entire life. But through it all, he tries to stay positive. And so as payment, he is granted a wish. When Keiichi goes to make a phone call, the line is hacked by Yggdrasil, and Belldandy answers the phone. Yes, the Norse goddess Belldandy, one of the Fates. And she tells him that she'll take his request in person. She then steps through the mirror. Now, I'm a little biased. After all, Belldandy is my waifu. Not just my waifu, cutestuff's waifu. She is perfection, and no other anime girl has come close. Feel free to fight about it in the comments. Not only is she kind, she is smart, strong, and beautiful. And fashionable as well. The episode ends with Keiichi freaking out and Belldandy telling him she will grant him one wish. This doesn't really seem to calm Keiichi, but what can you do? This episode does a great job establishing that everything Keiichi knows will be turned on its head. After all, he just went from the worst luck in the world to having a literal goddess granting him a wish. But what will he wish for? If you want to find out, you'll have to watch it yourself. Or read the lovely manga. I've talked about this episode several times in the past, but I wanted to bring it up here again. This episode not only perfectly sets up the main couple, it also establishes just how crazy the school is. Of course, if you have an understanding of Japanese, the series is even funnier. Komi is a quiet, stoic beauty who is worshipped by everyone. And I mean everyone. On her way to school, people stop to stare at her. At school, every movement she makes is fawned over. And it's no wonder. Komi is close to the word kami, which means god. So our titular character is a goddess. But gods cannot talk to their worshippers. At least, not directly. I mean, Alan Rickman had to play the voice of God, otherwise Alanis Morissette would destroy whoever she talked to. Sorry, Dogma reference. Tadano Hitohito is just a guy. His name literally means just a guy. And like every single student at Eton Private High School, he is actually a weirdo. This school doesn't care about grades, lineage, or special talents. It cares about quirks. So what is Tadano's quirk? He can read the room. In junior high, Tadano embraced his 8th grade syndrome a little too hard. He went over the top, but one day he realized how cringy he was being. He wanted to fit in, so he learned how to read the room. In fact, he developed it into a superpower and can now read people's minds. Okay, not really, but basically. And everyone in class is quite upset that this normal guy is sitting next to their goddess. One day, Tadano gets run over by the class and is knocked out. He wakes up to see Komi still sitting next to him, quietly talking to her cat toy. Of course, he only half hears what she's trying to say until meow. Or nyan if you're watching the subtitle version. Komi flees, embarrassed, and Tadano does what he can to calm her down. He says the first thing that comes to his head. Are you not good at talking to people? Komi stops mid-step and turns around. And of course, she's unable to speak. Tadano suggests writing on the blackboard as a way to communicate. They have a short conversation, and Komi tells Tadano all about her fears. How she really wants to speak, but her face freezes. And when she approaches people, they cower. She's not sure what she did to make people so scared of her. She wants to eat lunch with people, but her voice never comes out, and she was never able to make a friend. She just wanted to eat lunch with Tadano. She ends by apologizing to Tadano. She's sorry for the trouble she caused, and she's sorry that she can't even talk to him or thank him for his kindness. She tells him to forget about it and tells him goodbye. As Komi goes to walk away, Tadano picks up the chalk and writes, "Nice weather we're having." And the two proceed to have a conversation entirely in chalk. This is one of the best scenes in anime, much less in a first episode. Komi is finally having a conversation with someone. Eventually, the two of them fill up the chalkboard with their words. And as the board is full, so is Komi's heart. The sad, lonely goddess finally feels hope for the first time. And at the end of this scene, Tadano asks the lonely goddess what her dream is. Komi writes that she wants to make 100 fens. Then Tadano writes, "I'll be your first one and help you make the other 99. At this point, Komi was a forgotten goddess. She existed, but she was just drifting through the world. People bowed to her and worshipped her, but no one saw her. She was less of a god and more of a yokai. Komi Can't Communicate is the story of a goddess losing worshippers and becoming immortal by gaining friends. This episode establishes the premise of the series and lets you know that you're in for something both heartwarming and hilarious. So if you like your rom-coms to lean more towards the comedy side than the romance side, you should go watch Komi Can't Communicate. Before you come after me in the comments, hear me out. Great Teacher Onizuka is the definition of judging someone by their actions, not their words. Everyone assumes Akichi Onizuka is going to become a teacher so he can get himself a young, groomable bride. After all, what other reason could there be for a punk like him, a legendary biker gang leader, for becoming a teacher? But here's the thing. Onizuka never touches anyone inappropriately. He never steals a kiss from anyone. He may look, but he doesn't touch. Joking about a thing, or even thinking about a thing, is not the same as doing the thing. So stop judging yourself for having inappropriate thoughts. So long as those inappropriate thoughts don't turn into inappropriate actions, you're fine. So, if we're judging a character based on their actions, what does Onizuka do in the first episode? He beats the crap out of some of the thugs who were trying to blackmail him for money and then robs them. He speeds to make sure he makes it to work on time. He then loses his temper on his problematic students. And when one of the students tries to honey trap him, though he is tempted to take advantage of the situation, he keeps his hands to himself. Which is fortunate because 3 of his other students throw open his door and take incriminating pictures. Afterwards, Onizuka sits there and quietly asks Mizuki, his student who came to him for help, if she really needs the help. She replies, "Why would I go to a teacher for help?" This is the reason Onizuka became a teacher. He was abandoned by his teachers when he was a student. They called him trash and basically drove him out of school. When teachers treat you like garbage, why would you even want to go to school? Much easier to join a biker gang. Well, as it turns out, Onizuka didn't just join a gang, he, alongside of his friend, ruled the entire region and became gang leaders as teenagers. So when the 3 students who took the incriminating pictures celebrate in the middle of gang territory and find themselves surrounded by scores of bikes, they get excited when their teacher shows up to save them. But Onizuka isn't there to save them. He's there to end them. So we know that Onizuka will lay his hands on students. But these guys did try to blackmail him and try to end his teaching career, so it's kind of hard to blame him. As it turns out, all these boys needed was just a bit of tough love. The next day at school, the problem class is there in its entirety, cleaning the school from top to bottom. All of the boys, once the nightmare of the school, are now model students, eager to help out however they can. And if this were the end of the episode, it would be a great episode. But we've got one more story to resolve. Mizuki's story is still happening. And even though initially Onizuka didn't want anything to do with her, she is still able to entrap him again. With panties. So the 2 of them are riding around town and Onizuka is trying to get a peek. So that's a point against him, but when she jumps off his speeding motorcycle into oncoming traffic after he refuses to take her to his place, Onizuka saves her. The reason she's suicidal and doesn't want to go home is the tension in her house. Her parents and her used to live in a small apartment. They'd have a fancy meal once a month and share their dreams of living in a big house with a yard one day. Then, one day, both of her parents' respective businesses took off. Dad now owns a chain of restaurants, Mom has a whole import business. They're making great money, but they're never home, and they sleep in separate bedrooms. There's a huge concrete wall between her parents now, and that wall is representative of the wall they've built between each other. Onizuka listens to her problems, then tells her she can't live in the past. Life doesn't work that way. He leaves her crying, but she does make it back home. Later on, Onizuka shows up at her house with a sledgehammer. The parents go to call the cops on him. After all, he looks like some punk. To be fair, he is a punk, but he's also a teacher. He goes upstairs to the huge wall and breaks it down. And the hero music starts playing. Mizuki stands there in shock as the wall in her home is shattered by Onizuka. And soon after, she realizes that the walls around her heart, and the hearts of her parents, is also shattered. This is why we love Onizuka. Yes, some of the jokes are dated and problematic by today's standards, but it holds up because Onizuka doesn't ever do anything really bad. He uses his fists to solve problems, but so do a lot of other anime protagonists. The whole series is basically, what if a shonen protagonist was a teacher at your school? And the first episode does a great job of establishing that. Your expectations are set, and if you love the first episode, you'll love the rest of the series. Now, Waffle sponsored this video with this series in mind. Kotoura-san is his favorite first episode. Now, I've only watched the first episode, but it was good enough for me to want to watch the rest of the series. Our series begins with Kotoura, a young girl who can hear people's thoughts. She's a psychic, just like Anya from Spy Family. The problem is, she doesn't keep it a secret like Anya does. She can't differentiate the difference between people's internal monologue or what's actually coming out of their mouth. And since people lie all the time, and Kotoura is spilling their secrets all over the place, this leads to a life of isolation. Eventually, even her mother and father abandon her. The first half of the episode is incredibly depressing, but the second half is delightful. She sits next to a boy in class with no thoughts. Smile on face, head empty. And this boy thinks her powers are cool, so he insists on being her friend. Kotoura doesn't want to believe him, but the boy is about as sincere as you can get. So she accepts him and decides to become friends. And now, after many years, Kotoura finally has a friend. Now, I can't say whether or not this episode is great because I haven't seen the rest of the series, but it did inspire the entire video. Once I have time to watch the rest of the series, I'll post a comment down below with my thoughts on whether or not it belongs on the list. So while streaming a few weeks ago, I asked for suggestions. I've heard that Takapi's Original Sin should be included, but I haven't been in the right headspace to watch something like this. Speaking of messed up first episodes, we've also got Oshinoko and Attack on Titan. Who can forget Monster's first episode? Finally, another shonen series that belongs in the conversation of greatest anime of all time, Yu Yu Hakusho. Gotta love series with punk main characters who have hearts of gold. Okay, now that we're at the end of our list, be sure to post your thoughts down below. Let me know what your favorite first episode is. And be honest, does it have a great first episode that fits our qualifications? Better yet, leave a comment down below for your qualifications of what makes a great first episode. Thanks for tuning in. Once again, a huge shout out to my editor Cutestuff. I couldn't make these videos without her. If you'd like to hire her to edit your own videos, she can be reached at cutestuff.edits@gmail.com. Link is down below. If you're looking for ways to support the channel directly, you can head on over to patreon.com/Danon. There are several tiers to choose from. You can pick an anime or manga for me to do a video about, or you can join our monthly manga club. I also want to give a quick shout out to all of my patrons: Waffles, Jiraiya, Muffins, Marcus, Brett, Roxy, Alix, Borgie, Congo, Robert, Pye, Kazaris, Patrick, Tiz, Art, Richard, Sint, Boomy, Oscar, Justin, Golden Walker, Captain Hammer, Sleech, Mr. Salty, and Daniel. You guys are awesome. I post anime or manga videos often, or you can click here to watch additional videos. Again, thanks for watching, and I'll see you all again next time on Musings by Danon.